So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to my MacBook Neo honest review. So I want to begin right away by talking about the price point. So the MacBook Neo does come in at around $599. However, keep in mind you can use the education discount if you are a teacher, a student, a faculty member. You are going to be able to use that discount to get $100 off via the Apple Education Store. Inquire about that if you are planning to pick one up and you do fit that criteria. You'll see right here we do have silver option, blush, citrus, and the indigo color option, which we're going to showcase here today. And you'll see it comes in at $599 as well as $699. So you can get those $100 off if you do take advantage of that education discount. I do recommend going with the 512 gig version, and the reason why is that the 512 gig comes with the Touch ID, obviously, but the real reason to me to get it is the headroom you get with 512 gig for a long term. And unless you're just a really light user and you don't use that extra storage, this is definitely the way to go. I don't like the non-Touch ID option because I think Touch ID is a convenient option for people, even students and teachers that are just going to need to get in. They just press the Touch ID and get on with their work. All right, so let's go ahead and talk the body and the build of this product right here. You'll see that we do have ourselves very rounded edges on the MacBook Neo. That feels extremely smooth to hold. Now, other MacBooks do kind of have that feel, but this one is extremely rounded comparatively to some other Macs. It just feels super nice. It reminds you a lot of the rounded edges on your iPhone device. You'll see right there, we do have a 3.5 millimeter headset jack, and you're going to find yourself the speaker grill that are side firing. Now, if we zoom in a bit there, you're going to see that you can even see like the little speaker holes in there. It looks pretty nice. It actually looks very premium, that you could see like them precisionally, the precise looking little speakers in there. But over here on the top part, you're going to find yourself one USB-C 2 and then the USB-C 3. Now, the one that can connect to monitors and transfer files is going to be the top one right here. This one right here is only going to be for plugging in accessories, but nothing that's going to go ahead and let you transfer, and it'll even give you a pop-up to tell you that right there. All right, now on the topic of the back of this product here, you'll see that if you look really closely, I'm not going to show it because I'm going to showcase my serial number, but you'll see a little bit of a serial number down there. But you'll see we have rubber feet on all four corners right here. We also do have ourselves these screws down here, which are going to allow you to access the back of the Mac. But definitely I've been seeing articles about easier repairability than the Macs that are higher end. So this is definitely a good thing for this MacBook Neo right here. But one of the things I really like about this was when you open this up, you can still go ahead and open this. Let's bring it over here. You can open this with one finger like that. Now, I did hold the side corner because it's not that, you know, the product doesn't allow you to do that, but it is so light feeling that sometimes you'll just kind of slide the laptop while you're opening it. But it does have that ability to go ahead and open it like that. But if you are a little bit too forceful, like let's say I go like this, see it like kind of slides with me. That's just because this MacBook is extremely lightweight. So definitely be careful when you're doing that. It might slide right off the table. But that's just a premium touch to this hardware right here on the MacBook Neo. Definitely got to say, honestly, I really do like that. Now, let's take a look a little bit at the inside of this product right here. You'll see on the Indigo, we do have these color match keys right here. Now, these are the scissor switch mechanism, but they're not backlit. However, because they're light, it doesn't really matter that they're not backlit because the screen kind of reflects off those keys at night and I could easily see them. Now, if you go down here, you'll see right here, we do have a pretty sizable trackpad. Nothing as big as like a bigger MacBook Pro or anything, but it's pretty sizable, you know, definitely a nice trackpad right there. And the actual feel of the casing is extremely similar to the MacBook Air and the Pros. So it definitely feels like way more, like it's punching way more above its price tag in terms of the design and the feel. You'll see right here along the edges, there's a little gap of aluminum right there, which kind of looks a lot similar to the MacBook Air. One of the nice things about MacBook Neo's display is that while you do have bezels, there's no notch. So it feels like a traditional laptop right here. I will say it is a little bit like more like wide like this and a little shorter this way. So for those of you used to those taller laptops, this has got more of a shorter, wider kind of stance. I think it's really good for consuming media as well as still getting some work done, but it's kind of a good one, good size for everyone because you'll be able to consume media and do your work. It's not just going to be a purely productivity, taller aspect ratio. So it's pretty good, I think, for that aspect as well. Okay, guys, so let's talk about the display. So I've had this experience for a couple of days here now. And I got to say, this thing right here has got the things you need. What it doesn't have is if we go up here and you go into display settings, it doesn't have True Tone, but not everybody's going to care about that. But you still get night shift, which can, if you tweak it properly, it could kind of look a little bit similar to True Tone. But you'll have dark mode over here. You could turn that off. And then you do have these different color profiles you could change between, like you can do on most Macs, including Adobe RGB, P3, generic RGB profiles, as well as sRGB. And this doesn't have the full color spectrum of sRGB. It's about 96 to 98% of the spectrum. What that basically means is that there are some displays that are going to look a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more deeper blacks than this. The contrast ratios are going to be a little bit better, but still, this is still a pretty colorful and vibrant display, especially if you put it into one of the RGB profiles. It looks pretty colorful. So I don't think it's going to be a problem for most people. And if you want it more toned down, you could just leave it at display P3 or go to color LCD for a nice balance. I will say that the wallpapers look pretty good on here, whether you're using a Tahoe wallpaper, a Sequoia wallpaper, or these included wallpapers for the Neo. They definitely pop for sure. And it's just a really nice panel. So if you go into the web and you start browsing on Safari, you're going to see that the actual text is very sharp. This panel does have 500 nits of brightness. It is a liquid retina display, so it definitely has enough pixels per inch that you're not really going to see pixels on this panel. Very sharp and has pretty solid viewing angles. The thing though with it is that it's not a mini LED, it's not an OLED, so when you start looking at black screens, let's go ahead and put a black wallpaper to show you what I'm talking about. It can look a little bit less black on certain angles. It might not be picking it up here in this video, but it's definitely a little bit more gray than like the darker blacks you'll find on an OLED screen or the ones on a mini LED like the Pro panels. So there is a little bit of a difference, but I don't think the buyer of this is going to notice nor care. This might even be their first Mac, so they might never even seen those displays, so I don't even know what I'm talking about. So the display, let's just put it this way, whether you're reading a news article, you're browsing the web, it's fantastic. And even as somebody who's come from 5K displays, I've used the MacBook Pro. I actually have one right now. MacBook Pro, you know, it doesn't matter. When I get on this, I'm not thinking about the display. Like, it's good enough that it still pleases me quite a bit, and I don't even think about display quality. When you don't have to think about the display quality, you know it's a darn good display. So that's pretty much what I got to say about the display. It's also pretty bright, but if you're used to like 1,000 nits on your iPhone or on your iPad Pro or whatever, if you have one of those, this might look a slightly less brighter. And you know, it is 60 hertz, but just like I said with iPhone 17e, my brain doesn't really care. I don't really get disturbed by it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to sit here and go, oh, it's a 60 hertz. No, you're going to be in macOS. You're going to be on this play screen. You're going to be in the arcade. You're going to be doing documents. You're going to be browsing the web, and you're going to forget that this is 60 hertz about 2 hours after you set it up. And if you never use 120 hertz ProMotion, you're not going to care at all. So that's my full rundown on the display. All right, so let's talk about the keyboard, because this is a really big deal. This keyboard feels excellent. It's very, very nice travel. You can definitely, you know, the spacing is good. It's compact, nice little area to rest your palms. You're not like reaching way up like a 15-inch, 16-inch laptop. It just feels phenomenal. This is going to be such an amazing laptop to sit at a coffee shop with, to put on a desk, a smaller desk at school, to go ahead and place in the bed and type. You know, if you're on your bed and you lift up the laptop on your knees or whatever, super comfortable to type on. And hold on, and it has good travel, and it color matches the device. So I like that overall. It's just a really, really good keyboard. Now, it reminds you a lot of the keyboard you'll find on like the Magic keyboards for iPad Pros. It's clicky like that. Very nice. Now, the main thing we want to talk about too is the trackpad on here. The trackpad on this MacBook Neo is extremely clicky. So you'll notice it right away. But it feels better than a lot of those Windows laptops. And let me tell you why. Because Apple made it to where you can kind of click anywhere on this trackpad and it's going to respond. So on some Windows laptops, most of them actually, on the bottom section, you got to click it and it responds. And the click on here doesn't require a lot of force. It's actually so clicky, in fact, that a couple times I accidentally clicked it. So you might actually run into accidental clicks on here. Now, the Force Touch trackpad on MacBook Pros is a little more precise. I definitely think it's a little bit better, but it's not. This is not a deal breaker whatsoever. People calling this a trade-off, not a trade-off. It's actually not a problem at all. The only way it's a problem is if you're comparing it to something better. I mean, it's just not. It just works fantastic, and I like the trackpad. So talking about the software. So we got macOS Tau on here. Definitely matches up pretty nicely with iOS 26. The iPad OS as well, 26, and they just made it pretty easy to navigate across. You just have all these like sections and folders where you can go through different applications and stuff of that sort. But generally, it's a really easy operating system to deal with. And you'll see over here, if you look up here on the right side and we go into the control area, you kind of have the same look as the iPhone. You can edit these controls and add your own controls over there to the right side. So that's also pretty fun. And it matches with your ecosystem perfectly. Let's just put it that way. Then what's really nice is that you get that full access to the Apple App Store. You can even put things on here like Final Cut Pro, and they actually run pretty good on here as well. You can also run iMovie. You can run the Apple suite of applications. Even though they're not specifically designed, it's not the Pro laptop, this can still run it. For some light work if you want to go ahead and do it. You can also do Lightroom as well, and you could do some other applications that are available within the Apple App Store. So pretty cool. You also have the phone screen mirroring application to mirror your iPhone to this Mac down here. And so overall, I mean, it's a powerful platform. And then of course, because this is the Mac system, you have great multitasking abilities, resizing windows and stuff of that sort. And while iPad has brought that to the table with iPad OS 26, still, this is the true computer platform right here. This is Mac OS. This is the one that gets the real work done. Let's just be real about it. This is the one. I understand you can get real work done, and how do you define real work is a topic for another day, but let's be real. The Mac OS is where you go when you need to get serious. Like, that's just the bottom line. And this one kind of feels playful and serious at the same time, which makes it kind of like a hybrid product because it is light enough to travel. It is small enough to do some quick games on, and it can actually play some heavier games also as well. But this Mac OS right here definitely is the game changer, and why this is so exciting, because you don't have to pay, $1,000 plus, $2,000 plus for a Mac to get Mac OS. So this is absolutely great timing, I would say, for the to launch this product. Now, I actually took off my movie clip that I edited the other day, but I got to tell you, this can edit movies, no problems. I'm not going to run them here because I don't think there's any point. We're not buying this to be video editors. I mean, you could do it, but we're not buying it for that. We're buying it for light work. But if you get it for video editing, it's very easily handles that. It can handle all your communications, the iMessage, and the performance on the single core is actually higher than what you'll find on most Windows laptops in this price category. So what that means is that your actual tasks that you run day to day, your applications, your launch speeds, your browser tabs, all the stuff you run each and every day, they're going to fly on this computer. And that is important because that is what, let's put MacBook Neo here. That is what we want to do. We want to open our web browser. We want to do things. We want to open applications, and this thing can handle everything. You've probably seen videos where people are like launching literally every single application on this Mac and it doesn't crash. So this is like a mighty little performer for the price. Now, to be fair though, it's not perfect. If you do push it like with some serious pro stuff, you know, adding like all these like extra layers in terms of like video editing, you might crash it. And your memory room is limited a little bit here. You'll see down here we do have around 6 gigs being used. So, you know, if you start loading this down, you definitely are going to notice that this is not a powerhouse. But having that unified memory in here makes this kind of feel an actual usage like a 12 gigabyte of RAM laptop on a Windows side. So honestly, after using this, I gotta say, performance wise, it is absolutely fine. It is actually more than fine. It's pretty impressive actually for the price. To be fair though, I do wish that the MacBook Neo did have at least a couple more cores on the GPU and CPU, maybe 1 or 2. And I do wish it had 12 gigs of RAM. I think Apple could have threw in 12 gigs of RAM on this laptop. But with the memory issues going on right now, it kind of makes sense they went 8 gigs. But this still has Neural Engine because of the Apple 18 Pro. It still has that onboard 16 core. So that means you can still run Apple Intelligence applications on here, the Siri. You can use the Apple Intelligence stuff on here. So that's going to be good. And also ChatGPT, those cloud-based AIs are going to work just fine. Now Touch ID on here works like any other Mac. Just place your finger right there, lock the screen. You can click it one more time, lock the screen, go like that, and you're right in. And this really just makes it very convenient. So what about the battery life? We didn't talk too much about the battery life, but I got to tell you, on this MacBook Neo, the battery life is a smaller size, of course, smaller laptop, 16 hours of battery life, 11 on the web browsing, provided you're using Apple Safari. If you do use Chrome, you're probably going to drop that down a couple hours because Chrome does eat battery like it's breakfast. But for sure, the using Safari, using Apple-based apps, you're getting 11 hours of screen time with the web browsing and about 16 with just pure video playback. So you can watch tons of Apple movies and stuff like that. Essentially, the battery life is an all-day laptop, provided you charged it, you know, you go to school, whatever, you're out and about. It's going to last you most of the day, but it's not going to blow you away like the pros that can just seem to never drain. So when it comes to the connectivity, we are looking at the latest Wi-Fi's on here. It does have Wi-Fi 6E. It does have Bluetooth 6.0. Well, there is Wi-Fi 7, but not on here, so it's not the latest, but it is a really good one. So it still feels snappy and modern, like most computers. But if you have a Wi-Fi 7 router, you're not going to get the top speeds available on this if you're going for Wi-Fi 7, but it's still snappy. 6E is no slowpoke, so it's going to be pretty quick. But what's really surprising on this MacBook Neo for me was the front-facing camera. 1080p, but the reality is it looks very good. Like for the price of this laptop, there are some laptops that have some horrible webcams by comparison. So Windows, look out. This has got a great webcam on board, and definitely take notes because this one, for what it is, I know it's not 4K or whatever, but it is very good for the price tag. So I'm pretty happy there. I also have to state that the speakers side firing right here also turned out to sound pretty nice. They don't sound quite as loud as the MacBook Pros, and they're side firing. So if you, like, let's say you're chilling in bed watching a movie, whatever, and you got your blanket or whatever, you might cover it. You know what I'm saying? Or you got something on the side of the laptop, you might cover it. That is a potential with this one. But when they're not covered and you blast it, it sounds good. I'm not going to say it sounds the best, but it sounds good. I listen to MacBook Pro speakers. Those fire straight up, so it sounds phenomenal. But these are very good for the price. They didn't put some weak speakers in here, so that's a good thing for you. Okay, so MacBook Neo, what are the trade-offs? And by the way, I wanted to point this out in this review as well. The Apple logo is not shiny. It actually is color-matched aluminum right there. They kind of like engraved the Apple logo and made it slightly darker. But this is not shiny, so you're not going to scratch that as easily. I do like that quite a bit. It actually looks very clean on this laptop. So what are the trade-offs? The trade-offs are no backlight keyboard. So that I've talked about it earlier. It's not a big deal. Due to the light color match keyboard, the light reflects right off those keys and they're pretty easy to see at night. So it's not the end of the world with that. I do think though that they should put it on the next version of the Neo. That would be a nice upgrade. And I think people would love that upgrade on the next MacBook Neo. I think the trade-off is a 256 gig with no Touch ID. I don't like that configuration because I think it's like, why do that? Why didn't we just have Touch ID on both of them? I also think the 256 gig model is going to run out way too fast out of storage. I don't really love that they went back to making an 8 gig of RAM Mac, even though I said in this video, it's fine. It actually is fine, but I just want 16 gigs minimum. So, or 12. 12 can be fine here on this model as well. 12 is fine. Let's be fair. Let's be reasonable here. We're at $599 on this laptop, but 12 gigabytes of RAM. I mean, you got phones out here that are cheaper than this that have like 12, 16 gigs of RAM. So I think that this should have that. Some people say that the clicky trackpad was a trade-off. I disagree. Overall, the trade-off arguments for this laptop are pretty weak. I think there's basically no massive trade-offs for the target buyer of this laptop. They have absolutely nailed this one, and while still leaving enough headroom for growth on this laptop. So if they launch a MacBook Neo 2 with a backlight keyboard with a 12 gigabyte of RAM and an A19 Pro, it's over with. People are going to love that as well. They'll probably just jump on that one. So you can already see where the upgrades are going to be with this. But in conclusion, this is to me one of the best value, if not the best value MacBook ever made, ever. So this is exciting. Also, the colors are pretty exciting, including this indigo, the citrus, the blush, silver's classic. All of them look great. So I definitely think this is an extremely exciting product. It's probably one of the most exciting products I reviewed in quite some time. And it punches so far above its weight. I literally don't even miss MacBook Pro too much when I'm using it. Yes, I want to use MacBook Pro for video editing or videos like this one. I want to edit on a MacBook Pro, but at the same time, if I had to get it done on here, it's not a problem. So this can actually get you started on your video editing journey, your photo editing journey, and do better than most cheap Windows laptops are going to do. So for me, and even some pros, I think some pros would buy this for a kick around laptop for their travels when they're just doing light work on the road, some business emails. I mean, come on, like you don't need all that power to run a business, certain tasks of the business. So I think even some business users would pick this up as a side laptop, their B laptop for on the move when they don't need their powerhouse that they leave on their desk at all the time. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. I also can finally complete the ecosystem for people who have the iPad, the iPhone, the watch, but they always thought the MacBook is just too high. They can finally complete their ecosystem there. So yeah, that is my honest review of the MacBook Neo. I'm gonna call this baby like a 9 out of 10. It is that good. So thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And don't listen to all those people saying, oh, 8 gig of RAM is ridiculous. No, listen. People said that, and they made a mistake before when they said that about the 8 gig of RAM M1 years ago. M1s today, still boss performance, even with 8 gigs of RAM. Yes, occasionally they can crash an app, but Mac just stumbles a little, gets back on its feet, and is flying through apps again. So no, don't even listen to that. This thing is a beast for what it's targeted for, and you're going to make great use of it. But I will say, if you want to pick up a laptop to do heavy editing, you want to do heavier tasks, you want a little bit more premium feel, there are better options in the Mac ecosystem. So probably skip this if that's you. But overall, it's just for what it is. It's just been fun. It's colorful. It's fast. It's been great. Anyway, if you found the video helpful, entertaining, and informative, do me a favor, click that like button for me. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a MacBook Neo, you plan to buy one, share your experiences, your thoughts, your comments down below in the comments section, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you very much for watching. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.